So this next animal is going to be another native. This is a native snake. So we're switching from our birds to our salamanders. Now we're talking about our reptiles. So this is Rex. He is a black king snake. These guys are found all over Alabama, and we have a ton of them here in the Oak Mountain area. But one of my favorite species, king snakes are really fascinating animals. One, they get really large. He's a pretty big king snake, so try to stretch him out a little bit for you to see. He's about 10 years old. He was kept as a pet. The people actually hatched him from an egg, and then once he got to be really big, they were not expecting to be that big, and so they asked if we could take him on as a pet, and of course we were happy to do it. So he's been around people his whole life. He's a really great teacher creature. But this guy, he's going to be eating anything from a mouse to a rat, to birds, pretty much other snakes. It's really going to be his specialty though. So anything they can fit in their mouth that again is meat, they are carnivores, that he can grab hold of and eat, that's going to be what he goes for. Now again, snakes are going to be what he's known for though. He's a snake eater, and they're called king snakes because they eat venomous snakes. So all of our native snakes here that are venomous, this guy is kind of immune to that venom, so he can grab a hold of a copperhead or a rattlesnake and have a nice little meal out of it and not have to worry about getting sick if it were to bite him or anything. So that's why king snakes are so important to have. All of our snakes are important. I love venomous snakes. I think they're really fascinating. All of our venomous snakes in the Oak Mountain area are going to be our pit vipers. They're very cool animals, very important for our ecosystem. But I don't really want them in my backyard with my dogs, so having these guys around are very important. So black king snakes, or king snakes in general, are wonderful to have around in kind of that venomous snake control. So they're able to actually coil a lot better than some of our other snakes, and so when they coil around their prey to squeeze it, they constrict to kill their prey. They actually have a very organized coil and very straight coil, whereas other snakes aren't quite as organized in their coil, and that gives him one of the reasons why he's such a great hunter and is able to be really successful in eating those other snakes too.
And so how big do they get?
So he is right at about 3.5 to 4 feet. I've seen some at about 5 feet, but that's probably going to be on the bigger side. So these guys, our black king snakes, are going to stick to about anywhere from 3.5 to 4 feet on the large side. Most of the ones I see out here are still younger ones, about 2 to 3 feet long. They're still kind of learning how to be secretive, so they're still kind of checking stuff out. But you'll see these guys usually on the trails out here. You'll see them sunning themselves on rocks, or again on the trails, or in a nice little patch of grass somewhere. But again, very beautiful animals. You can identify these guys. A lot of people say, oh, he looks like a black racer, but he's going to have that yellow underside, that yellow belly, and all of our king snakes that are our black and yellow colored king snakes are going to have some kind of variation of this coloration. We do have our scarlet king snakes, which are mimics of the coral snakes. They look a little bit different, but most of the king snakes here in this part of Alabama are going to have some variation of this or be striped. And like we have our eastern king snakes, we have our speckled king snakes. There's all kinds of different ones, and then they do interbreed, and so you have morphs of all of them, so it gets really complicated sometimes too. But very, very cool snakes in that they have that coloration. They're really cool ability to eat venomous snakes, and are just wonderful to have. Pretty docile by nature too, so they're not very aggressive animals, so they're pretty calm animals too in the wild. He's in a knot. Look at his knot. And a perfect little snake knot. No. So people ask me, can snakes tie themselves in a knot? Normally I would say no until I met Rex. And then, yes, he can turn his to tie himself in a knot. Now, he can get himself out, but I guess he's just trying to conserve heat as much as he can.
But you can nebulize this?
Yeah, he does have asthma.
Yep.
Really?
He does. Every spring we have to give him breathing treatments.
Oh, man,
so.
that's coming out.
Now, can king snakes climb, or do they stay on the ground?
They can climb. Now, they're not going to be climbing up a tree like a rat snake, like our corn snakes and stuff, but they can climb, but they do prefer the ground. That's going to be kind of where they're more comfortable. But we have Ferb in here. He's hiding under the pine straw, but one of the black king snakes that you can see on display here at the center, he does like to climb around his enclosure. So they are good climbers, but not as good as some of our other snakes. That's a great question.
And tell us about the skeletal configuration inside.
Sure, yeah. So, I'm sorry?
How many vertebrae?
I'm actually not sure how many vertebrae. That's a great question. That is I would love to know that myself. But they have very complex body, just like humans do. These guys do have a very long spine. They're basically a very long rib cage, so lots of ribs that go down to about right above the tail. And then they have, of course, a ton of muscles. So that's all they're when they're moving and slithering around, it's all those muscles moving. A lot of people think, oh, they're gross, they slither, they're slimy, but they're not slimy at all. They're actually really dry, very smooth scales, and it looks really shiny. It's because he's very healthy. Aaron's done a great job caring for these guys. But again, all that is muscle. So muscle and bone and really amazing skills that these animals have to get around. They don't have legs like we do, or like a lizard, so they got to be able to move. So they've got some really strong muscles, and I will say this is a very strong snake. So these guys are going to be a lot different from our amphibians because he is a reptile. So amphibians, they have that porous skin. They really do love to live near water. At some point in their life cycle, they have a part of their life is spent in water or near water. And so whereas reptiles, they do need water to survive, but they don't require it to like soak in, or then part of their not all of our reptiles have part of their life cycle in the water. They're built very differently. These guys have scales. They're not porous. They have almost like an armor around their body, whereas our salamanders are very sensitive to pollutants and they can soak things up into their skin, where these guys don't really have that issue. So a little bit different body difference there. I would still consider this an indicator species in my personal opinion, because if you're missing a lot of snakes, then you're missing rodents, which is a good thing if you're living in a neighborhood or anything. You don't want rodents in your house. But if you're missing snakes, you're missing part of the food chain. You're missing part of that habitat. So again, if you don't see a whole lot of snakes in the wild, there's an issue. There's a break somewhere. But yeah, so we have our reptiles with our scales. Don't have to live in water, whereas our amphibians have really porous skin and do live at least one part of their life in the water.
Okay,